guys, and welcome back to another week of the Porsche Cup car here at the Imola circuit. My name is Matt Emery with the Veloce Vex for another hot lap guide for week 11 of the iRacing official series. So firstly, let's get into the hot lap. So let's get into the hot lap guide then for the Imola circuit here in Italy. So starting off the lap, obviously you want to get a good run out of this final corner, especially for your qualifying laps. And then you fly down the pit straight, quite a long pit straight actually, to fast forward. Obviously just making sure you are taking the shortest route that you can. So that means just cutting it to the wall, the pit wall there as close as you can. Absolutely flat out. And then straight line it down towards turn one. And now this is a very, very tricky braking zone, very heavy into turn one. So you're going to be braking quite early for this, especially in this car, as the brakes can be quite sensitive sometimes. So you're looking to brake. You can see I'm just braking just at the 200-meter board on the right-hand side there. And then braking very gently, obviously not looking to lock up the tyres at all. It's very important. You'll notice I'm not using too much brake here, and I'm just gently trail braking into the corner. You'll notice that you're also turning slightly while you're braking. So what that does is if it unloads the top one of the tyres slightly, so it's a bit easier to lock up. So you don't want to be braking sort of more than 80% into turn one, just to make sure you do avoid that lockup. And then into turn one, you're turning in. You are aiming just about for these sausage curbs on the inside here. Now you can avoid them if you like. It's weird because some corners you can take them no problem and the car barely notices them. But some corners like turn one and turn two, the car does ride them. It doesn't ride them as well. So that's something to look out for turn one and two in particular. For this lap, I chose to take it, and you can see I get it unsettles the car quite a lot, and the car does go into the air slightly. Again, for turn two, I'd actually say for turn two, you probably want to avoid it, just as it does give you that less traction, and you're going to suffer all the way through turn three because of that as well. So I'd probably avoid that sausage curb. You can get as close as you want to this one as well. And obviously you're just lifting off slightly, trying to carry the minimum speed. You see literally, look at my throttle trace here, there's a tiny lift, but no more than 5% off the throttle. And then you're just running out as wide as you can. Track limits is a big thing on this circuit, and those of you who have raced Imola a lot before will know that. And for some corners, it's different than others. So for this corner, for example, turn three, you can run it all the way to the edge of the Astro, no problem really, and you won't get an off track for that. Heading into turn 4 then, another tricky little chicane here. And this is what I was talking about. So this chicane here, you can actually use the sausage curbs quite a lot, and the car doesn't really notice them, especially the first part of the chicane here. It's not really a problem at all. So for your brake mark, you're looking at about the 100-meter board just after, and you see I'm getting right on that second sausage, I'm pretty much in the middle of it, and the car barely notices it. And what that does, it means you can just open up this second part of the chicane and carry more speed through the exit. So definitely would recommend using all of the curb you can here. And then you're back onto the brakes after you've hit that sausage curb, back onto the brakes for the next part of the chicane, as you can see there. And then you're just being a bit patient. You notice that don't touch this sausage curb, just as it does unload the car a bit too much, same as turn 1 and 2. So not touching that curb and then running out as far as you can, as far as you can get away with really. I think the limit for most of the corners is the edge of the curb. So once you go all 4 wheels past that point, you will get an off track. So that is something to look out for. You can run that quite easily. That's quite a comfortable line there. And then obviously it just means you can get all the exit speed that you need. Coming into the hairpin as well, you're braking just about at the 50-meter board, coming up on the right hand side. Now for this corner, there's 2 different lines you can take here really, and it really is down to personal preference. It's something to play around with in practice, if you get around to it. So you notice for this lap, I took the conventional racing line, wide in, and then getting on the throttle around the apex, and then wide out again. And that just gives you a nice sweeping sort of U shape around the hairpin. Now, what you can do, you can brake into the corner more. So rather than taking a nice U shape into the corner, you can V off the corner more. So it's more of a V shape. So you sort of brake as if you're going for the apex, towards this curb on the inside here. And then what you do, you get all your turning done on the apex, and then get back on the throttle. Now it's up to you what you want to do. It's probably a bit easier to do the conventional racing line, where you take a nice sweeping U, and it just means you get on the throttle and open up the corner a bit more. But if you want to carry that bit more speed in, and you want to V off the corner, then that works as well. I've tried both, so it's really down to how you wanna do it. But back on the throttle then. Again, you can use all of this this runoff here. Don't go any further than the edge of the curb, because you will get an off track. And then run it up the hill for the blind left-hander. Now this one's a very tricky corner and very easy to get an off track as well. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So you're braking just as you come over the crest, just in between the 100-meter boards here and the 50-meter board. You're braking just about in the middle of them. You notice I'm using quite a lot of brake pressure and then just trailing off it. Still holding it into the apex, and come off. You want to come off it about here and then start getting on the throttle again. And you can actually use this curve a bit more than I did on this lap. That's not a problem at all. The car doesn't mind the curves too much. And then back on the throttle. And what I was talking about before the corner, it's very easy to run out wide here. Again, you'll get an off track quite easily, and I think it's actually in the last couple of seasons, it's been patched, Imola, so I think it's a bit more harsh on track limits now. Because you used to be able to go quite wide here, and you wouldn't get an off track. So just make sure you keep one wheel. I think it's even on the white line here. You can't go too wide at all. So just make sure you do the practice and make sure you know where the limits are. It's one of those tracks where it's really easy to hit the instant limit, especially if you're fighting other cars. You get the odds 4x and things like that. So definitely make sure you're keeping on top of your instant limit, as you might get a drive-through, or even worse, a black flag in officials. So then you start plunging back down the hill again, into probably my favourite corner or section on the whole circuit. You plunge into this right-hander here. Just a slight bit of brake. Now, in most cars, you would just lift. But obviously in the Porsche Cup car, you don't have all that aero. You've got quite a lot of power as well, and the car's quite heavy. So braking into the corner, and then you're slowly just easing back onto the brake and then coming off it again for the uphill section. So I'll show you what I mean. So you're coming off the brakes, or coming onto the brakes, sorry, just about at this 100-meter board up here. Or just after, sorry, probably more about the 50 to be honest. Yeah, about 50 meters. Trailing the brake in, just so you get that extra rotation. You're putting the nose into the tarmac, gives you that more, gives you a bit more front grip. And then you're getting even further on the brakes, about 50% into this corner, and just trail braking through this whole section. I'll play that through for you so you can see what I'm doing. And then you're braking pretty much into the apex as well. And now this is another one where you can use the sausage, but it's really up to you. You can see on this lap I do slightly clip it, and it does unsettle the car slightly. But again, that's really up to you and how comfortable you are with using them. But yeah, that's why I choose to take that corner. So just using the sausage slightly, and then back on full throttle as early as you can. And then you're taking the straightest line you can for this section. So you notice I'm just straight lining this curb, back on full throttle, and then sticking it to the left-hand side, just so we don't scrub off those hundredths of a second on bits of the track we don't need to. Then into another very, very tricky chicane. Now this one is very easy to get an off track. It's very harsh, and it kind of ruins the corner slightly because as I said, it used to be a lot less harsh, and you could sort of really chuck it into this corner, and you wouldn't have to worry too much about getting off track. But nowadays, it's a lot more harsh. So you're braking about the 100-meter boards just after, and you've got to be really careful you don't ride too much curb because you'll get an instant off track. So that's probably about the limit. If you touch this green stuff on the inside, the AstroTurf, you'll just get an instant off track. So that is pretty much as far over as you want to go. Again, you're trail braking into the corner, just opening up as much as you can. And then you glance over the first one. The second one's a bit easier in terms of off tracks. As long as you're not going too far over this bit of the curb, you'll be all right. And then back on the throttle as early as you can. The rear end may kick out a bit there, but it lives with it quite well. The car's not too bad there. And you also notice you can use all of this AstroTurf on the exit. You can, I think, get out to about there, your left-hand tyres. So make sure you do take advantage of that. It means you can get on the throttle a bit earlier and just use that to your advantage as well. And you notice I'm running it pretty straight from the exit of the corner, just using all of the track that I can. Make sure I'm not scrubbing off any speed. And then we're going to plunge back down for the final time towards the penultimate corner. Now, another very tricky braking zone. As it is quite heavily and steeply downhill, you want to brake a bit earlier than you would expect here. So I'm braking just before the 100-meter board, probably in between the 150 and the 100-meter board. And then just trail braking nice and gently into the corner, coming on quite easily, and then only going to about 75%, you can see there. Just so we don't lock up the tyres. Again, this one's very easy. Sorry, not very easy. Very easy to lock up. So it's a very tricky corner. If you're going for moves here in the race, I'd try, especially in this car, I try and set it up for the pit straight, because I can't tell you how easy it is. If you're sending it down the inside here, it's so easy to lock up and just end up in the gravel trap, and you're going to lose like 10 seconds. So if you're going to go for a move, I try and set it up for the pit straight and get them down to turn one. Just as it's quite tricky to go side by side, and it's really hard to brake late, and you will end up just locking up. So if you can, see if you can set it up for the pit straight, maybe see if you can make them go defensive into this one and set them up. You can use quite a lot of the apex curb here, so all onto this AstroTurf here, and that actually helps the car rotate a lot as well. So make sure you're all over this curb as much as you can. Then you're back on the throttle. Again, for this one, don't go too wide. Don't use really any more than I have there, as you'll get an off track. Very important though to use as much as you can, because it really opens up the last corner. And maybe in qualifying, it's something you want to do, go as wide as you can and just open up the last corner to get the best run you can onto your hot lap. But for your races and your actual qualifying laps, I wouldn't go too much further than I did there. And then a slight dab of brake for the last corner, just as you're going into it. You see there, I'm onto the brake slightly. And then I wasn't too happy with the balance as I was going into there. So you can see I have another stab at the brake slightly there. And you want to be using a bit more of the curb than I did there. So not the perfect line through there. Just make sure you're opening up as much as you can. Get onto this curb as much as you can as well. And then using all of the exit. Now again, it's very easy to get an off track at this last corner. So just make sure you're keeping it within the limits, keeping it on the curb. And yeah, if you go too wide, you will get an off track. I think you can get a slow down there as well. Don't quote me on that, but I think I've seen it before. So that is something to look out for. And then yeah, that's a lap of the Imola circuit. You can see I'm cutting it as close as I am to the pit wall. And then yeah, across the start finish line for a lap of Imola. So that was another week of the Porsche Cup car here for the Imola circuit, week 11 with CoachDaveAcademy.com. Now make sure you guys check out the Discord and also the website as well, just for the latest data packs. Any more information or any questions you have, just go into the Discord and someone will be there to help you. But yeah, I've been Matt Emery, and I will see you for the final week, week 12, next week. Take care.